Welcome to Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
Your co-host Rich Gear here with you as well. And Doug, we have a very special guest who you've been talking with over the years. You want to introduce him to our audience?
Stephen Craig Policastro is the president of the International Association for Creation. And I met Stephen a number of years ago in the Orlando area. I think it's Oviedo that you live. And that's on the eastern side of Orlando, over by University of Central Florida. And so we had lunch together and got to talking. But since I met you, Stephen, you've done some dynamic things. You've taken your organization, which you call the International Association for Creation, and you just finished a conference where we've invited a lot of different creation speakers to join us. And we use the Zoom meeting format to be able to get together and talk, give some talks. And you had Russ Humphreys, I know, was one of your speakers, and we've interviewed him a number of years ago. But you're starting to give us a vision for something brand new that I don't think has been tried very much in the with creationist organizations, and that's the concept of taking secular creation museums, secular museums, and turning them into creation museums by taking their artifacts and giving talks around it. And so this is a dynamic thing that has started up, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your vision for this, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug, for having me on the show today. It's a pleasure to be with both of you this evening, and I'm so glad to share this vision that God has given us. Back in 2016, we officially organized as a 501c3 nonprofit. Before then, we had been a loosely affiliated association of different creation organizations and learning centers around the world. But in 2016, we organized more formally, and we began selecting individuals from our community who we thought might be good tour guides to give creation tours of secular museums. So our team, over the past 3 years or so, has been traveling around the country speaking, and as we go to major metropolitan areas, we give creation tours of the secular museums in those cities to state homeschool groups. We've been doing this in Washington, D.C., Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Phoenix, Arizona, as well as Houston, Texas, just to name a few places. And it's been really amazing. Like you said, Doug, we can use the artifacts and the exhibits that the secular museums have on display that are funded by our taxpayer dollars to provide an alternative interpretation according to the biblical standard and the recent creation worldview that we believe in as Christians. Because honestly, we're looking at the same rocks, the same fossils, the same evidence. We just have different worldview, which informs, how we interpret the data and the evidence.
Well, Rich and I have been doing similar things for a number of years. I remember we have a friend in the Phoenix area. His name is David Overpriller, and we recorded a TV show with him called Plants of the Bible, and we did this at Boyce Thompson Arboretum State Park in near Superior in Arizona. It's out in the Superstition Mountain area. We have a museum that Rich is the staff artist at here in Lansing, and I am also volunteering as a docent there. And so this is a history museum, and so there's not a lot of stuff related to evolution there except for one thing, right, Rich?
Yeah, that's at the very beginning. They kind of start about the end of the glacial age, which the ice age, if you will, and they go back like 14,000 years, which is not the deep time of the millions of years that we generally run up in natural history museums. But it's still obviously, we believe, wrong. The Ice Age has become obviously a friend of the creationists. But I was going to ask you, do you hook up with a lot of homeschool groups, or who do you schedule your tours for?
Yeah.
And how do you get your people to help you out doing this?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a administrative support team of about 60 of us who are working on this. And then we have different tour guides who we are training up in select major metropolitan areas across the U.S., Canada, and Europe to provide these tours. And so in each of these states or nations or provinces, we work with the homeschool leaders to connect the families with the creation tours. So, one of the most requested, services that we get is that whether it's a homeschool family or a co-op leader or even a Christian school teacher, they'll ask us, do you have a creation tour guide in my community so that we can go on a creation field trip of the museum, the zoo, the aquarium, the planetarium? And for a long time, we took all that data and figured out how we can best serve these people who are making these requests and where they're located. And so now we've, raised up a number of leaders. I think now it's over 40 who will be going out into these secular institutions providing creation tours. And that will be our first, round. And then we'll continue adding more creation tour guides to cities all around the world as we move forward.
So, what's your favorite artifact to use when you go into these museums? Or maybe your list of your top 5 things that you like to show off when you're going to these. Is it the natural history? You said the planetariums. How about the aquariums? And you go to natural history museums as well?
Yes, yeah. So natural history museums are our mainstay in most of the areas we serve. So currently, we're actually, because of COVID-19, we've had to suspend our tours temporarily. And however, that's opened a huge opportunity for us to give virtual tours of museums and other national parks as well, virtually. So that's been an exciting opportunity. Now, I'm thinking I've probably been to the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History the most. So I would have to say that my favorite artifacts in that museum specifically, the right whale towards the ceiling in the oceanography exhibit, probably the Lucy skeleton, or the Neanderthal skeleton.
With the human hands and feet?
Yes, yeah, where it's like it's a puzzle, but it's missing a whole bunch of pieces. So that one. And then I really like the biodiversity hall with all the animals. I know that's not one exhibit, but I love it because it's so great to talk about missionaries, like who were the missionaries and what did they see as they traveled and shared the gospel. And it also gives the kids a really, tangible look at what death and sin and the curse do on the earth, right? So the only reason we see all the dead things around us in the museum is because of sin. And that entire exhibit area, that exhibit hall there is perfect for sharing, how there is death and sin, but, we have Jesus who has come to save us from that death and sin. And so I would say the animal hall is my favorite. And then there's the dinosaur hall, and that's pretty cool. It's interesting. A lot of our research has shown that dinosaurs are typically most popular when it comes to academic study for young people. However, when we're doing tours of the Smithsonian, the most popular exhibits are the ones to do with animals. And we believe that may be due to the fact that the children cannot connect as well with dinosaurs because they don't see them in real life. However, when they see sea creatures in the oceanography exhibit or mammals in the biodiversity hall, they can instantly connect with that, and then they have that rapport with those exhibits, and they are much more apt to listen and understand. It's actually really exciting.
So they connect better with something that's alive as opposed to something that's extinct, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something that they
makes
can
sense.
like I've seen that on TV, or maybe I've seen that, driving down the road with my parents. Yeah.
So what age group do you usually typically do these tours for? Are they all different ages?
Yeah, all different ages. So from 3 years all the way up to, college, and then also adults. But mostly it's families. So I would say the majority of our tours are given for 4 years old up to 17. Because again, there are many families that come. We usually accommodate about 30 to 50 people in one tour when it's an in-person tour, and we can go up to 80. And then when it's a virtual tour, typically we can do like 30 to 40 is like comfortable. We can go up to 90, and then we are now investing in new technology that allows us to exponentially grow that. Primarily because we come into countries now where giving virtual tours is become virally popular with the homeschool community, especially in the Philippines. And so that's been really exciting to see, thousands of people over just on the past 2 weeks, thousands of families have been put on our wait list to get these creation tours just in the Philippines. And we're still working to, serve the schools and families in North America. We're about to go into South America, and we already have a waiting list there. And then all across Europe, Africa, and Oceania as well. It's really exciting how technology can bring people into an experience and really captivate them for the cause of Christ, right? Like our team always says, okay, today we're going to learn about God's world through the lens of God's word. And ultimately, the purpose of it is to point people to Jesus. And it's really exciting because all the feedback we get is, wow, we love this tour because, it really made us think more about Christ. And that is the ultimate goal of what we do.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done just lately is I'm releasing a new version of my book, Revolution Against Evolution. And that will be ready in the next few weeks for general distribution. If you go to our website, rae.org, and look at our homepage, it'll show a link where that book can be ordered. And this is a book that is it's like a general use. It'd be a kind of book that you'd want to hand to an unbeliever or someone who doesn't know anything about creation, because it touches all the high points of the creation evolution debate, and it's up to date with the current research. This is the fourth edition. The first edition had a lot of the things that I have in the book now, but they were at that time more speculations and things that I had heard about. Now I've visited many of these places, and I have seen firsthand this evidence rather than just read about it. And so this has enhanced our capability to communicate the creation message. And I see that now with these virtual tours, this is something that Rich and I are trained to do. He's the staff artist for a museum. He's the guy who manages 10 different museums in Michigan, the artwork for it. And I'm trained as a docent, and so I know a little bit more about what giving tours is all about. And so it's you're playing right into our hands, Stephen. It's something that we would just love to participate in and start doing. If you have a tour group that wants to find a creation tour guide in their particular area, how would they contact you, and how would they have to do to get it signed up?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy. You just go online and you go to our website at christianmuseumtours.com, and you can register your group for a tour online. And we'd love to have you join us. Tours are usually available during the week, and we schedule about 2 to 3 weeks out. So super easy, just christianmuseumtours.com, and you just click on the request a tour link.
All right, great. And so we would be able to accommodate you in that particular realm in the mid-Michigan area. We have a number of museums in the Lansing area where we're at. We have, of course, the Michigan History Center, which is what we're part of, and the related museums in Michigan. We also have the Michigan State University Natural History Museum, which is kind of fun to go through because it's got some outdated stuff that we like to show.
Don't they still have that Lucy?
Yeah, they still have that, and they have the Hall of Evolution, and so it's kind of fun to go through. The Broad Art Museum, which I wouldn't recommend going to, but that would be something to talk about existentialism or postmodernism, which is all about art, you know.
Yeah, we also have a science museum too.
Yeah, the Impression Pride Science Museum.
Okay.
So there are a number of things here that we are capable of doing, and also there's national parks and state parks that we can go to. And
yeah,
so
that's another really exciting opportunity. So we are working towards covering art museums. There's a few, technical hurdles to make sure that we overcome. As far as, what may or may not be considered family friendly. However, we are working towards that end to make creation tour or biblical worldview tours, I suppose, available in art museums as well. And then national parks is another huge opportunity because most of our tour guides in the major metropolitan areas we do serve also live near one or more famous state or national parks.
Yeah, that reminds me of there was a book written several years ago called A Different View. It was about Grand Canyon National Park. It was from a creationist perspective. So it's kind of interesting to see things like this come together,
Yeah. Yeah, it really is amazing to see everything that God's doing. I think one thing that I enjoy the most watching is seeing people from other nations come onto the team that speak other languages. So right now we have Spanish, French, Italian, German, Norwegian, Nepalese, Malay, which is the language in Malaysia, Ukrainian, Russian, in our native language guide group. So we'll be providing virtual creation tours to these people in these countries as well, and then these language groups. And we know it's extremely important that we reach people in their native heart language. And so that's something we really want to make sure that we're doing. And every time we go out, virtually to another country, they love it, right? Because they may not ever have the opportunity to travel to the United States. Especially when they're on the other side of the world. However, if we can bring the museum to them and bless them in that way, then we've just seen so much impact from that. And it's
how do you get this translated? I know. We have friends. Doug and I have friends that are in Bible translating. The Wycliffe Bible translating. It's a major undertaking to do. Obviously, they're doing the whole Bible, so that's a lot more than what you're trying to do. But even so, these multiple languages. How do you organize it and get people to translate the message into the language of the people? How does that? Are you the one that's doing all the organizing, basically? Or not all of it, but are you heading it up, or how does this work?
Yeah. So our team.
I'm quite impressed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So our team. So in our our team at IEC, there's about 70 of us, mostly volunteers, who are working on the administrative side of things. And over the past, I would say, 3 months, we've been able to, reach out to contacts in other countries and find qualified, creation science professionals in these countries who are able to translate our guidebooks that are in English into their native language, and that they're able to give the virtual creation tours with a little bit of training from our staff. And so it is really exciting. We have boots on the ground in 81 countries.
Holy moly.
And even in the 1040 window, there are a number of countries within the 1040 window that will also be streaming these virtual creation tours in. And that's exciting. There's so many opportunities in the underground church and for the persecuted Christians who are really hungry for, the biblical worldview, apologetics, knowing how to defend their faith.
Now, I think this...
Are you planning to get into China anytime soon?
Yes. So a little bit of information about, I guess, the 1040 is, so we do currently operate on the mainland of Asia, as well as in the Middle East. So I can't really go into many details of where we have personnel. But
I didn't like to do that.
Yeah. So it is exciting.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to connect up with our friends in South Africa and did a Zoom meeting with them, and so we're just starting to explore the possibility of doing our TV show with a lot of different creationists on the same call from various parts of the world. And we had one fellow from Durban, South Africa, another guy was in Christchurch, New Zealand, and then we had a third guy who was in the Johannesburg area, and we were all on a call. That was one that I'd forgotten to push the record button as well.
What are we doing, Doug?
But we did manage to do the show again, and we do have that online. That one was about our trip there with Kruger National Park, and so that was a time where we've been to South Africa twice, and we visited with these crazy South Africans who are really a lot of fun to travel with, and so that was just an amazing experience for us. But I'm just very excited about this possibility of doing creation tours with the homeschoolers, and I'm hoping that those of you who are listening to this we'll put the information on our show, so you can contact Stephen if you want a creation tour in your area.
Yeah, that would be great. We serve, church groups, homeschool co-ops, families, Christian school classrooms. If you want a creation tour, we're here to help you out. So it's amazing to see that, God has all these amazing creatures that He created, and they're on display declaring His glory, and we just have to walk in there, not be afraid. We just have to have faith and speak the word of God. And, I've seen lives be transformed. I can just share, real quick. So I was in the Field Museum in February doing a live tour in Chicago after we were doing some on-set filming for our training videos that we'll be, using to prepare our tour guides. And so I was giving the tour of the Field Museum, and there were about 40 people there. And so we're walking around the museum, and at the end, a young mother came up to me, and she was basically in tears. And I was just like, "Are you okay? What's wrong? How can we pray for you?" And she's like, "No. Like, I'm so thankful because I've never been to this museum. I've lived in Chicago my whole life." I was like, "Oh, well, what do you mean? Like, why haven't you visited before?" And she's like, "Well, because I've been afraid, like, when I was younger, and I'm also afraid to take my children through now because it's, full of evolution and things that don't agree with the Bible." But she had, said very clearly that, because of taking the tour that she did, she had her life changed, and that she had no longer this fear that was gripping her and keeping her from the museum, but she now had faith that gave her, the proper understanding of the biblical worldview when it comes to relating to the museum, and it encouraged her to not only go back, but bring her friends and share with them what she had learned on the tour. And we have, and are hearing hundreds and hundreds of stories just like that, where people's lives are going from fear to faith because of these creation tours at these secular museums, and that's what it's really all about.
Now you have sort of like a plan if a group leader gets some opposition from maybe the staff at the museum or anything like that. What is your plans? Can you describe that little scenario?
Yeah, I can give a scenario on that. So for me, actually I was in Phoenix, and I arrived at the Natural History Museum there. There were like 400 kids because it was free public school day. And I was like, oh no, where am I going to find my families that I'm giving the tour to? So we found them, or I found them, and we started going on a tour. And like some public school kids started following us, listening to my tour, which was fine. And then some of the exhibit docents started coming up and questioning me. And, I had just politely said, I'm here, under the authority of my organization and the U.S. Constitution, right? I can speak with you afterwards. I just need to finish my tour. So I finished my tour. Now, rewind back to the beginning when I was waiting for the families. I was approached by the director, and she was like, we heard you were coming. We had like an all staff meeting to get ready for you to come. I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, we thought you were going to bring a megaphone and shout us down. I was like, no, I know we're not going to do that. And so at the end, she comes back, she brings I think it was 10 or so people out with her. They were all in the upper management of the museum. And they're sitting there in the lobby with me for 15 minutes, saying, oh my gosh, I've never heard, creation explained so succinctly and so eloquently. Not that I'm eloquent with my words, but that somehow God prepared their hearts to hear the truth. And they said, we're not ready to, change our beliefs. However, we understand where you're coming from, and it does make sense. And so I find that even if there is, some opposition, God can handle that, and God's definitely strong enough to handle that, and He can make a way for us when we do encounter opposition. He can make a way for us to actually turn that around and use it to share the truth of His Word and change hearts. So it's actually really exciting.
That's great. That's fabulous. So, because I was going to ask you how that works with the secular groups. Do you ever get secular groups just at the outset? Does that ever happen?
Not usually. I mean, we might have one or two more secular families, but usually they either kind of peel off the tour and just, they kind of leave, or they stay the whole time and they just have lots of great questions.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I'm very grateful that we have an opportunity like this to interview you, Stephen, and there's other things that you're doing with the besides just museum tours. You're trying to organize a lot of the different creationist organizations, especially the Lone Ranger ones, or the ones like us where we're the local groups, and so there's a lot more that we can probably talk with you about, but we're starting to run out of time here. Already, yeah, we're starting to get close to the end here, Rich. But we appreciate you, Stephen, for all that you're doing. We hope that we can support you and help us out. Now, if you want people to contact you about creation tours, we'll put that information at the end of this TV show. And so we'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution. We hope you enjoyed our show.